I will say, moving forward here, this this month or so has been a little bit depressing in light of Toys R Us like going out of business and closing. In fact, all their remaining locations are going to close tomorrow, which would be the 29th of June, actually, as of this recording. Um, and the reason why I mention that is it's a little bit distressing, possibly, or maybe it's something that you're looking forward to, but GameStop is putting itself up for sale. And first thing that would probably come to mind is like, oh, are they going out of business? Are they in trouble? What?
Yes. So GameStop of late has been hemorrhaging money. But it's only been in the last week or so that they've confirmed the fact that they are looking for buyers. Uh, in particular, the it was I'm looking at an article here from June the 19th from Fox Business that GameStop confirmed on Tuesday morning, which that would be Tuesday, that would have been Tuesday the 19th, that it is in exploratory discussions with third parties involving a potential sale. This confirmation comes less than a day after rumors of the potential deal surfaced, as reported by Reuters. The video game and electronics retailer has held talks with private equity firms about a potential transaction after receiving buyout interest. And so uh, the question becomes, why is GameStop hurting so badly? And I think the answer is manyfold.
Well, the first thing that would come to my mind is actually digital sales. Seems to be something that's happening more and more often. I mean, between okay, well, with PC gaming, actually, they probably started it first, with Steam, because you don't see like very extensive PC gaming sections in stores anymore. Like they'll get like a single rack, and it's only you'll find either like the big AAA titles on them, or you'll find those really cheap like poker collections or something like that, or like puzzle games or something like that. Which that on that end, that's probably not going to make a whole lot of money. But I mean, Steam is like raking into money so much to the point where they originally developed games and then they stopped. So it's only natural that the consoles would start following suit with that strategy and start offering more and more digital content that you can directly download and thus actually gain more money over physical retailers. So I mean, GameStop has had to been fighting that for a while, because the secondary market on that is it's just slowly going away, I guess.
Yeah. As internet across the country improves, in theory, and people start moving toward a more digital model, you see fewer and fewer copies of games being returned as used to GameStops. And let's be honest, GameStop at its core was essentially one part video game store and one part video game pawn shop.
Yeah.
And GameStop, as a whole, their entire business model was about taking in, for as little money as possible, the used games from their members and then reselling them at a markup.
All right.
And with less and less people having used games to turn into GameStop, that cash flow is kind of dried up. And I'm looking here at an article from Seeking Alpha. Seeking Alpha is a financials website that's largely focused on investment, but they're talking about uh, why the buyout interest in GameStop may actually make it a compelling case for investment. The way they summarize it is this: the negative narrative for GameStop has driven valuations of its stock to rock bottom levels, even though the company overall has solid cash flow. The recent buyout interest has served as a short term catalyst for the stock, and there is a significant short interest in the stock that could be looking for an exit. In other words, there could be people who have purchased it that are looking to get rid of it as quickly as possible, making it a decent buying opportunity.
Okay.
But they talk about how the financials for GameStop are largely focused around fourth quarter sales, which makes sense, right? I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
GameStop money comes from when people come in to buy video games and video game systems for their kids or for themselves for Christmas.
Yes. It's always a fun time of year. Well, not for retail, but I mean for working in retail. I'm distracting from the point.
Still, uh,
That's why they call it Black Friday. After all, it's like when they get all their totals from the red into the black.
yeah. So, from sharing from Seeking Alpha here,
Okay.
notice that they show the gross profit annual growth in various sectors here for GameStop based on information from quarterly reports.
Okay.
Notice Q4 in 2017 and Q4 versus Q4 in 2016.
That's a marked improvement.
And so 2017 was fairly successful, largely, they say, due to the Nintendo Switch release.
Yeah, I'd say.
But new hardware was not a significant enough portion of their income to help the business with profitability. Uh,
Right.
and so you can see the areas where they're making the most profit is in video game accessories, and where they're losing the most money, where they mark here as other, but where they're losing money is in pre-owned, which has been where they made money in the past,
Yeah.
and in their technology branding. Because they used to have the program, or they still do have the program where you can turn in old technology. Again, remember, video game pawn shop. You can turn in your old technology to, get credit at the store.
Right.
And so basically, given the interest from other companies in a buyout for GameStop as a whole, I think what we're going to see is, personally, I think GameStop will find a buyer. There's too much money potential in the business for there not to be. Again, Seeking Alpha is suggesting that there's likely between a 10 to 33% upside over the current stock price if that should happen. And their conclusion is that the negative narrative of the death of retail and online game purchases has gotten ahead of the fundamentals of this company. The solid cash flows and a high dividend yield make GameStop a great buy. Considering the confirmed interest of a buyout and a massive short interest, meaning they're wanting to sell quickly, we now also have a very interesting short term catalyst in the market. From a valuation perspective, the investment looked more attractive when the company was trading with a dividend yield of 12%. However, with the confirmed buyout interest, I view the risk reward of being long on GameStop, meaning buying it and holding on to it right now, even more compelling than in the past. Of course, this was an opinion piece, but still, it points to the fact that there is a narrative about GameStop, and that is they are a garbage company that does garbage things. And probably a lot of that narrative is deservedly so.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
I've heard enough of that from some of my friends who used to work for them. I mean, they have some pretty restrictive policies for their own employees, and a lot of times it seems like they punish for some arbitrary things, so among other things, and then of course the normal, you're getting like pennies for something you paid a lot for. Well, figuratively speaking, pennies. Where I mean, you spent like $60 or $70 on a game or something, and you go and trade it in later, and you get maybe $10 if you're lucky.
right. Unless it happens to be an in demand title, and then you might get 15.
Yeah, and then they have those occasions where they offer like bonuses on there because I've seen several games that they're offering like $20 to $30, bonus credit for because they're in that much demand. Problem with that though is they're usually games I don't want to get rid of.
Right.
So it's like that's not going to work out for me. I mean, that's cool that I could if I needed to, but I don't really want to.
Indeed. I mean, yes. GameStop has a history of being not necessarily anti gamer, definitely anti consumer. Where the whole Circle of Life controversy that came out a couple of years ago is well documented about
Yeah,
some of their practices behind the scenes. Definitely, they have not always been they are definitely not pro consumer in that sense.
they're definitely pro taking money though.
Yes.
But
And so I think, uh, yes, digital sales are hurting them. There's no denying that. Yes, they have failed to adapt to online digital sales and online competitors like Amazon. Honestly,
right.
if I'm looking to pre order a game, there's only maybe one or two series that I would actually consider going and get physical copies of.
I'm
And
assuming one is
honestly,
Fallout.
yeah, we're talking, Bethesda games like
Yeah.
Fallout or the Elder Scrolls. Uh, maybe if there was a new Borderlands title coming out. Uh, honestly, the Pokemon games, the last two major releases that I went to go pick up a physical copy were both the Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, and the Pokemon Sun and Moon releases.
And I bet
And
they actually like live and die on big releases like that, so to speak.
yeah, I mean, I live in this the city I'm living in is big enough that there are two Game Stops here in this city that are only about 3 miles apart.
Same actually.
And there's enough business at both of them to keep them both running. But I can't tell you the number of times that I would stop by the GameStop to see what, if any, sales they might have. Actually, the I got the shirt I'm wearing, which is a Morrowind shirt,
Nice.
at my local GameStop when it was on sale, as well as this Battlefield 1 hoodie back here.
Ah,
And I picked them up when they were having clearance sale last November, I guess. And so, but I can't tell you how many times I've stopped in there after work and it's just empty.
as in like no customers in there, or
There's like, there's one, maybe two people working the counter, and there might be one other person in there besides me.
That is a little troubling.
On the other hand, at some of those big releases, there'll be a line out the door waiting for that particular title. So, but honestly, when I went to go to pre-order Fallout 76,
Yeah.
I did my pre-order through Amazon this time.
Oh, so you're going to get it for cheaper.
Yeah, that
Or wait, do you have Amazon Prime?
I do have Amazon Prime.
So yeah, you're going to get it what, like $10 cheaper or something like that?
Pretty close to it. I'd have to look it up to be sure, but
Uh, so that's the advantage of pre-ordering with such a big company as Amazon. They've got more money at their disposal, so they're going to have uh, better deals available more consistently. Myself, like you, there are two GameStops in my city. Well, okay, technically the city right next to my city. They're basically close enough to where you leave one and go right into the other. So it's practically like the same place. But you've got one that's in the mall and it's like a pretty small shop and like they cram as much stuff as they have in there. And then you have another one that's actually in a strip mall and it is more than twice the size. And you'll have times, like you said, where you have people going out the door, waiting to get their pre-release. I've been there several times myself during some of those. And then you'll also at the mall location, it's the same thing, but you're inside, which it's actually a nicer experience, when it's freezing outside. But it's hard to tell because actually a lot of times when they go in there, depending on which one I'm at, there are people still in there. I think the one in the mall is less so because like the more people are in there, the harder it is to get around in there. But
right.
that's besides the point. I actually did pre-order Spider-Man for the PS4 beginning of this month, and there are a few other people in there for me, but a lot. This was the mall location I went to, and a lot of times what I see, and I'm guilty of this myself, is people will go in and they will browse and just kind of go along all the racks and then just go right back out. You
Hmm.
don't like so when you see people in there, a lot of them are just in there to window shop basically, and then they lose interest and walk away. You don't see a lot of people, just like lining up to purchase things, and it's a little sad. And actually, notably speaking, I went there last week to make a payment on my pre-order, which is the reason why I went with that because I can just keep throwing $5 on in a week. By September, it'll be done. I was more interested by the non-game stuff in the store than I was with the actual games in there, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, because they've essentially turned into. I'm honestly kind of surprised they haven't been bought out like by the likes of ThinkGeek because they have a lot of ThinkGeek
Yeah,
merchandise in there already.
but see, didn't they buy out ThinkGeek like a few years ago? Or were we thinking of a different company?
I don't know if they bought them out or if they partnered with them. I'd have to look that up.
Oh, I'll do that real quick. Is games? I probably shouldn't be reading what I'm typing. Uh, but I mean, yes, that would be a pretty good move if that's something they're capable of.
You're right. GameStop did buy ThinkGeek in June of 2015.
You're so much better at typing than I am. Yeah, okay. So that would explain why I think Geek didn't buy him out because GameStop bought him out. I think, if I remember correctly, that was one of their strategies to try to counter like their loss in revenue from the declining of uh, used game sales, which I
Yeah,
think it's
to
helped because
try
they
and
have some really awesome stuff.
diversify into other nerdy hobbies.
Right.
Which I
But
mean, honestly, it kind of worked. Last time I was in there, I guess the last time I was at my local GameStop was, hmm, wow. Honestly, the last time I was there was for the Pokemon Ultra Moon release, Ultra
yeah,
Sun Ultra Moon release. And when I was in there, I honestly spent a lot of my time waiting in line looking at some of the ThinkGeek stuff. And there was a couple of things I almost bought with my pre-order because those were the more interesting things in the store.
Yeah, it does make me wish we had a Think Geek, physical store. Which I know they're out there. They're just very few and far between, which probably works out better for them anyway. But sometimes I just rather walk into a store and buy something and walk right out with it instead of clicking a few buttons on my computer and then waiting for it to arrive.
Right.
So I guess for me, maybe it's just impatience that keeps me buying physical stuff. I don't know. Then again, no, I won't go down that rabbit trail. Um, so basically, if someone is going to buy out GameStop, what they what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to completely rebuild their sales strategies. They're probably going to have to just take everything out and then just put only certain things in there, like and just basically cut out a lot of unnecessary things. And really, they have to change the bad image that GameStop has given itself over the years. I
Yeah,
think they'll have a chance to survive after this. I don't think they're at the point where, the company's at death's door. I think they're still going to be around for a while, but they do need to do something unless they want to become like Toys R Us.
yeah, I think there is that narrative that, oh, ThinkGeek is in desperate trouble. The reason they're seeking these buyout is because they're basically falling apart as a company. I don't think it's quite that case yet. Like they were talking about in the Seeking Alpha article, the company as a whole has solid cash flow, even if it is very seasonally dependent. But I think I think you're right. I think for the company to survive in the long term, they're going to have to cut the fat. They're going to have to figure out what's working, what isn't, and they're going to have to work hard to repair their reputation.
And they've uh, they've built their company up to where it is through hard work and through doing the right things at one point in time. And so they should be able to do that again. They should be able to refresh it and, you know, come back to where they were at some point. But
And
they just had to do something different.
and who knows at this point? Maybe the GameStop as a brand is too tainted. They may have to rebrand themselves as something new.
Well, that's also something they've done before.
Hmm. Yeah. Anyone remember back when it was EB Games?
Um, I do remember when the one in the mall was called Babbage's.
Yep.
So, yeah, because that one was the one we had. And then when we got a second one, that one just went in as GameStop. And when that one came in as GameStop, then the one in the mall rebranded to GameStop. And it's like, okay, that's a better name.
Yeah. So yeah, Babbage's and EB Games were both acquired by GameStop, and maybe it's time for a different branding. I don't know.
Maybe they should switch to Game Start. Maybe not. So, obviously, this is something that's going to be under speculation for a while. If any of our listeners out there, want to comment on the situation, this would be a good time to go to our YouTube channel when this ends up being live and, adding something to the comment section. Maybe you thought of something we haven't. Though, let's be honest with Ned, that's not exactly an easy thing to do because he knows his stuff. Um,
Oh, you flatter me.
but visit us at youtube.com/crossforge gaming and you'll see or hear, depending on whether you want to watch us or not, this podcast as well as many other ones cut into, pieces depending on what the topic is. Uh, yeah. All right then.